Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining the Sunday Sewcase with Parliament Quilts and Crafts. I am Latanya Patillo, and I'm so grateful for you joining us today. And I'm welcoming the wonderful and fantastic quilt artist, Casandra Allen, who is going to talk today a little bit about her quilting and crafting journey, who's going to talk to us a bit about this beautiful piece that is behind me. And we're going to learn a lot about her and talk a little bit about the quilt community. So, welcome, Cassandra.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Latanya.
All
It's a pleasure
right.
to be here today.
It is a pleasure to have you. Before we start, I want to say one, thank you for our viewers. Thank you for the subscribers. This is the very first video and Sunday showcase for Parliament Quilts and Crafts. So if you are joining us today, you are part of the number of the inaugural live stream. Our goal today, again, it continues to be to highlight our quilters and crafters. And so we're just glad that you are here. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. We want to continue. I want to do my part to support and participate in the quilting and crafting community. And so this is a part of it. So thank you. We will go ahead and get started. We are taking comments and questions. So as we go along, if you have questions that you want to ask us, ask Cassandra, please put them in the chat. We will get to the questions that we can get to, but we're going to have a wonderful conversation today. Please engage. And please participate. So I see Diane, I see Candace, I see Yolanda, I see Karen, I see Ava, I see the Zori Quilting Guild. There are so many people who are here. And if I call your name out or if I forget to call your name out, it is not because I don't want to. It's just because we see all of these wonderful comments coming in. So thank you. And we'll go ahead and we will get started. So Cassandra, welcome. I'm going to read a little bit about Cassandra and then we're going to answer some questions, have a conversation, and just have a good time today. So Cassandra L. Allen is a fiber quilt artist who resides in Tennessee. She began quilting in 2005, and initially she used traditional patterns and then found her niche using Afrocentric fabrics and embellishments of cowrie shells and beads and other things. Cassandra has exhibited her quilts in art galleries, libraries, museums, and schools around the country as part of solo exhibits and also as part of group exhibits. She currently has a commissioned piece on display in Canada, and she has designed quilts for the American Cancer Society and the Alzheimer's Association. She is currently serving as a secretary for her local guild, which is the Zuri Quilt Guild, and is a member of the National African American Quilt Guild. Yeah, they got.
Yeah.
Her quilt themes vary from story patterns to traditional patterns with an Afrocentric twist. And the one thing I do want to share is that when titling a quilt, she prefers to use uplifting messages. Okay. So again, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for taking the chance to be the first, the first artist of the Sunday Showcase,
Uh-huh.
and spending time with us. So I will ask you your first question. Tell us about what brought you to quilting.
Okay, so what brought me to quilting? The unexpected death of my brother this was my youngest brother, back in 2005, my brother Sean, occurred, and I was devastated. I really didn't know what to do with all of these emotions that were just bottled up inside of me. And my coworker one day suggested a quilting class, and I I used to sew when I was 12. I started sewing at the age of 12, but not quilting. It was more garment sewing.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, that might work. And so I took the class, and I guess the rest is history because I really enjoyed it, and it allowed me to take some of what I was feeling and create something um,
Mm,
beautiful out of it.
sure. And tell us more about that. And again, condolences. Although it has been some time, we know that the memories stay with us, and we often
Yes.
know that these are, quilting, working through, provide us with opportunities to work through, as you said, all of our emotions and to create
Hmm.
something beautiful in
Yes.
memory of those who came before us and who we are
Hmm.
missing. So that was your first quilt project. Tell us a little more about
Yes.
that.
My first quilt project. It started off. I was working in a long term care facility actually, and I used to see a lot of quilts on the residents' beds or in their room displayed on their walls. And
Mhm.
I thought, oh, these are really nice. Some of them are really intricate. And one of my coworkers at that time, her mom was a quilter, and she
Mhm.
offered to do a class after work. So we started the class, but then she, for some reason, stopped, didn't want to teach any further. I don't know if we were really tough students or what,
Mhm.
but she decided, she wasn't going to continue teaching the class. So that was when my coworker at my full-time job was telling me about the class that she was taking.
Mhm.
And so I took the pieces that I started in that class, and at that time it was a log cabin pattern that we were using.
Mhm.
It was a small quilt. It was probably something you could throw over your lap, smaller than a lap quilt actually, but used the log cabin block. And the colors that I selected, I liked all the colors I selected, but then they told me in that next class that I was missing a color. I needed another color,
Mhm.
and the instructor selected the color for me.
Hmm.
And when I finished the quilt, I wasn't really that pleased with it. I just didn't. It just didn't really thrill me.
Mhm.
So to this day, I don't know where that quilt is, but I did like the fact that I learned, I learned the steps of making that log cabin block, which is a popular block in the
Mhm.
quilting
Mhm.
industry. And I've made other log cabin blocks since then, and I really like them. So the quilt, I don't know where that quilt is, if
Mhm.
it got lost in my move or what, but I have photos. I just couldn't find a photo of that quilt.
Sure.
Yes.
Sure. Was it the color? So with the original piece, was it all of the colors? Was it the color that the instructor added? What was it that
Yes.
you weren't pleased with? It was that additional
It
piece.
was, yes, because I had selected the teals,
Mhm.
creams, and orange, like a paler orange.
Mhm.
And I like those colors. And I think she ended up adding like almost like a magenta or maroon color.
Mhm.
And I just didn't think it flowed. Maybe I might think differently now, but at the time I just was like,
Mhm.
I don't
Mhm.
really like it. I acted like I liked it, but I really wasn't too crazy about it. Because I thought, oh well, she's the instructor. She's been doing this,
Mhm.
so she went ahead and chose it, and not necessarily my taste. Put it
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is an important lesson, right?
Yes, it
In
is.
and being true to your vision, and
Mhm.
oftentimes we're in these environments where we're learning, and to your
Yes.
point, where you're like, she's the instructor, she would know, but it was
Hmm.
other than what you wanted, right?
Right.
And so you
Yes.
kind of push
Yeah.
that aside
Yeah.
in order to do something else because it just wasn't quite what you envisioned for the quilt. Um, I
Exactly.
take it that that has since changed. That
That has
now,
changed.
yes,
No, I follow my own. I follow my heart, my gut instinct.
sure, sure.
Yes.
I love it. Well, thank you for sharing that. So,
Hmm.
you know, you've mentioned what brought you to quilting, but
Hmm.
throughout your quilting journey, right? I'm sure there are people that you engage or you connect to that inspire you. Who are they and why do they inspire you?
Okay. Okay. Well, this is it's. I'll say it's a question with many answers to it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm inspired really by my family and my friends because I feel that without them, I wouldn't be who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Some of my life experiences have been um, inspiring to me, or things that I have witnessed. I'm inspired by current events,
Mm-hmm.
historical events, Black history. Our family, growing up, my husband had a Black history exhibit that he used to, it was a traveling exhibit, and he would bring it into the schools, a few of the museums.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were really into our Black history and Black culture. Biblical scriptures, sometimes they can just like spark. Um, a quilt can come from something, a sermon that I've heard or
Mm-hmm.
something that I've read. And then sometimes I could even be awakened with an idea. And I know that that's something that God has dropped into my spirit. And
Mm-hmm.
so those are the things that inspire me. Now, if I'm thinking of a quilter who has inspired me, I would go back to Faith Ringgold because I got to meet her many years ago. She came to Connecticut College,
Mm-hmm.
and she did a presentation on her quilts, and I was just blown away, and just was like, I want
Mm-hmm.
to be like her, although we're only supposed to be like ourselves.
Sure.
But I just really, I just, I liked her message. I liked her style. I liked the fact that she was painting on fabric, and then it would become a quilt.
Mm-hmm.
And um, she's one of the people that has, one of the quilters that has inspired me.
Yeah, yeah. Faith
Yes.
Ringgold, the ancestor. I tell you, I used to work in the media center in an elementary
Hmm.
school when I started teaching and came
Yes.
across Tar Beach, right?
Yes. Yes.
And have continued to be connected to that because of the story, because of
Hmm.
all of the medium. It was intriguing to me that she was a painter, right? And a quilter and a
Hmm.
storyteller and all of
Yes.
those things. And she combined them to make these beautiful, wonderful, important, and significant pieces. And so, one more thing I'm learning about us,
Mhm.
Cassandra, we're connected in that
Yes.
way too.
Yes.
Is Faith Ringgold is just magnificent.
Yes.
And although she has since passed, of course, we are
Hmm.
still blessed to have her as a quilting ancestor. So thank you
Yes.
for sharing that. And so while
Oh,
we're
you're
talking
welcome.
about the inspiration,
Hmm.
you know, what is quilting your only medium? Because you spoke to the fact that she did she used a variety of media in her quilt. So
Yes.
as artists, oftentimes because of the inspiration, we want to do a lot of things. I know there are groups where you might have, your paint, you might have your yarn, you might have your, all of the different machines and tools to create these unique pieces that we make.
Yes.
So is quilting your only medium, or are there other things that you like to do?
Yes. There are other things that I like to do. For, well, this is many years ago, but something I'd like to restart was clay sculptures.
Mm,
I was involved in this group. It was called Women's Voices, and these were many women who were from different backgrounds, different age groups, and different cultures. And we were learning all these different other mediums that maybe we might not ever be exposed to.
mm,
And I just really took to the clay sculpture. I liked the feel of the clay in my hands. I just liked just the outcome of that, of the sculptures that I came up with. One, of course, was of a woman with her hands on her hip and hands on her hips and um, in defiance. I like that.
Mhm.
And the other two were that I came up with were one with the person, keep your head to the sky. I think I was called it, and they were looking up.
Mhm.
And I'm trying to think of what that third one was. But we had these on display after the end of this program. We had them on display at the hygienic gallery,
Mhm.
and it was just a wonderful feeling to just see your artwork, the outcome, and from your gift of creativity, and then it's on display
Right.
for people to enjoy. And so that was one of the things.
Mhm.
Another medium is the charcoal and pastel drawings. I
Wow.
started doing that my late teens, and I was drawing, things outside nature. I drew a lot of dinosaurs. I was into dinosaurs way back then, but
Mhm.
that was a medium that I really enjoyed. And also basket weaving,
Wow.
using the reeds and the flat reeds,
Mhm.
making baskets was just, I love the outcome of that. And I only made one, and then I made another, and I've given them away because whoever saw them wanted them, and they liked them so much. So I just shared them, and
Yeah.
I'm known to do that. Um, so that's one thing. One thing that I've taken recently, using upcycled products, or some may call them recycled products,
Mhm.
was doll making. And that was using like a water bottle. And I saw this on television actually many years ago. It was an African American woman
Mhm.
um, on one of the craft shows, and she showed how she made these dolls. And
Huh.
I had to make one. She used like lint from your dryer,
Wow.
and she ball that up and then make that into the head.
Mhm.
And then she had the water bottle, and you put a little bit of sand in there as to weight it down. And then you're using your fabrics to wrap it, and some wire to wrap the arms. And then if you put a headpiece on it, and I'm sure I have a picture somewhere, but not
Mhm.
not with me.
Sure.
But that was one of the things. And then not probably like last month, I took this class called locker hooking, and
Mhm.
that's using fabric scraps.
Mhm.
and and they don't even necessarily, they at the in the class they supplied all these scraps,
Mhm.
and I made a small piece, but it's very relaxing. You can sit in front of the TV and just, it's almost a combination of crocheting
Mm.
and latch hooking, like if you were making a rug,
Okay.
except that you're using the fabric, and it
Sure.
has a nice texture to it, a nice weight to it.
Mhm.
Um, I put a plant on top of it, and I finished it.
Wow.
It takes a bit, but it's worth it. It's worth
Um,
that time.
so it could be a wall hanging. It could be any textile piece. It could be a
Mm-hmm.
placemat. It could be.
Yes.
Could it be a
Mm-hmm.
rug? I
It
know
could be
you
a
know
rug.
your
Yes.
rug that you.
Mm-hmm.
But the important part is you're using scraps. You are
Yes.
repurposing fabric, um,
Exactly.
and it can be exciting, decorative,
Mm-hmm.
and intentional. Right? You're going to use
Yes.
it for something and repurpose it for something.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
That's
that's the
awesome.
plan. I want to make another one, but a bigger one, and have
Mhm.
more of I didn't really have a design in mind. Like, I mean, I knew the color wave I was going for, but
Mhm.
I want to do one where you can almost make a figure, but that takes time. Like, you have to know where to put the where to make the fabric changes.
Sure.
So that's in my to-do list, on my
Yes.
to-do list. Yeah.
Yes, the lengthy CVS receipt length of
Yeah.
to-do list that we also always have, right? All of the things that we want to do.
Yes.
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 So do
It
you
gets
sketch?
longer.
Yeah. Do you sketch out your designs before you plan them, before you create them?
The majority of them, I'll sketch them out, and what happens is it starts one way. The sketch is one way, but it ends up another way once my quilt begins and takes me on
Mm-hmm.
another journey.
Sure.
So I generally do start with I have a little sketchbook
Mm-hmm.
um, that I have used, or might even just be in one of my notebooks. But
Mm-hmm.
yes, I do like to sketch. It's almost like a plan.
Mm-hmm.
Like, sometimes the best laid plans, they're changed, but it's okay. The change ends up being for the better.
Right.
So yes,
Right.
yes.
Wonderful. I want to stop and take a question from the chat. Yolanda
Okay.
has asked, what's the most unusual object or piece that you've incorporated in your quilts?
Hmm. Well, I made this quilt. I called it Through the Ups and the Downs,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a picture of a couple who are jumping the broom.
Mm-hmm.
And I put an actual broom on the quilt, and I
Mm-hmm.
decorated it like you know it would be at a wedding with the laces and the color scheme. But it was an actual quilt. I mean a broom that I bought at a craft store in the section where they sell the floral stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
that to me would be like the most unusual. And it traveled very well. I used When I attached it, I used like a heavy invisible thread,
Mm-hmm.
and it's still in place. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I really like it. It's just I just felt that when I was making that quilt, that it needed something. Yes, you could tell that they were jumping over something, and then I said, "Well, it needs a broom." And then I just kind of like drew out a broom and put it on there, and I thought, no, it needs a little more. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the piece.
Got you.
Mhm.
Got you. Do you find that you are more often than not adding additional pieces to make it more three-dimensional, or are you pretty consistent with your designs, your 2D
Well,
designs? Mhm.
right. When I started uh, quilting, once I graduated, so to speak, from the two traditional classes that I started off with,
Mhm.
I had the tendency to use more embellishments in my quilts back then. Early on, I was using cowrie shells,
Mhm.
beads. I used did a lot of hand beading on
Sure.
my work. Um, Sometimes feathers were on there, buttons,
Mhm.
branches, small branches, twigs. But now currently not as often, but when I did this particular quilt, I said, I'm going to have to start I'm going to have to start using these embellishments more. I mean, cuz I have them, I just sometimes the quilt is not calling me to say that it doesn't feel complete. So
Mm.
sometimes it's a matter of whether or not the quilt is telling me, "Oh, we need something else on here."
Right.
Um, but that's how it was in this particular instance with this quilt.
Mhm. Mhm. Awesome. Well, let's a perfect segue to talk a little bit more about this quilt. This quilt is called Life Goes On, and I am going to take a minute. I'm going to get out of the way, and I'm going to try and give you more of a close up to the quilt. It is a beautiful, beautiful piece. And I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to let Cassandra tell you more about the quilts, but it is lovely. It is full of color. It is full of several techniques, and would love to talk more about it. So here, let me show you the full. Let me move my head out of the way, and let me show you the full quilt. I'm going to back up a little bit. Okay. And if you can see, it is very colorful. And then I'm going to try and get a close up for you of some of the pieces. Okay. We have the cowrie shells here. We have some of the patterns of the fabric. Okay. Um, let me just move my camera around a little bit. Try and really use my unsophisticated system right now. Give you a chance to see.
Mm.
Okay. But we will also, when we have the replay, I will post more pictures of it and post some close ups of it too. But it is absolutely gorgeous. So I want to give you an opportunity, Cassandra, to tell us a little more about Life Goes On.
Okay. Thank you for that description. Okay, life goes on. And I'll just preface this by saying I didn't come up with the title until I completed the piece, this particular piece. Sometimes it comes before I've even started, sometimes it comes midway, but this time it came after. So, how this quilt started out was I saw this panel online, and actually it was through Quilting with Soul, where I've gotten several of their panels. And when I saw it, I thought, oh my goodness, I really like this. So I saw it, I liked it, I ordered it. And then, meantime, I had a variety of blocks of Ankara fabric that I found, and I say found, quote unquote, in my stash. So I thought, and this was back in November. So I thought I had to do something with the blocks. So these blocks that you're looking at all on the outer perimeter of the center panel, I wanted to showcase their beauty and the vibrancy of these fabrics. And I felt that the pinwheel pattern would show most of their beauty using just very minimal waste. And generally speaking, when you're making a pinwheel block, you would use one light fabric and one dark fabric when you're making this block. I didn't really want to use like a solid color because in this, when you're looking at it, looking at the block, when I opened up my package and looked at the blocks, I really couldn't really see initially like what was lighter and what was going to be light and what was going to be dark. And I just said, you know what, I'm going to just decide as I go along. I am just going to select the colors that I think would look nice with each other as pinwheels, because
Mm-hmm.
you're really looking at two pinwheels in each block.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
what I did, yes.
I just want to show right here. You can really
Hmm.
see the contrast here.
Yes.
That this is
Hmm.
really what a pinwheel block looks like. And they
Hmm.
are all pinwheels, but this one is just showing really well in the video. Um,
Yes.
so they are triangles
Hmm.
that make what, a traditional kind of pinwheel would look like. Thank you.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. So I didn't want to add, like I said, I didn't want to add a solid color because I just really wanted you to see the beauty of each of those initial blocks that I had. So when I'm putting those together, there's different steps that I'm following. And in order to make there were 16 pinwheels that I started off with. So to make an initial um, block, pinwheel block, you're taking two, two blocks, and
Mm-hmm.
you're putting them pretty side to pretty side. So in this case, and generally with Ankara fabrics, it's hard to determine what's the right side and what's the wrong side.
Right.
So I just used, I just decided, okay, this is the right side and this is the right side. So I put two pretty side to pretty side, and then you're stitching them all the way around the outer perimeter of that it becomes one block at that point. And
Mm-hmm.
when I stitch it, I'm stitching from the corner to corner, but I'm not going around the corner. I go off the corner, and then I stitch down and then across and then back up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about a quarter inch.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then once you do that, then you put your ruler down from corner to corner, and then you're cutting that diagonal, and then
Sure.
you're going to do that on the other corner diagonal. And then you come up with four smaller blocks,
Mm-hmm.
which after we've completed it, make that one pinwheel. So
Mm-hmm.
you're taking the of that block, once you cut it, you have the two on top and you have two on bottom. And you stitch the two, you fold them over, you stitch the two that together, and you're doing like a chain stitching, so you want to keep them connected.
Sure.
So you fold them over, you leave a little bit of a space, and then you do the bottom row, fold it over, stitch it down. And
Mm-hmm.
then you flip that bottom one up to the top and make sure your seam is lined up. I
Mm-hmm.
usually either I use a clip or I use a pin. And then I don't really like to use a lot of pins, but I use a pin when I'm doing my lining up my seams. And then once you fold it up and you stitch it across the bottom, and then you open it up and then you finger press it on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Finger press it open, and then you have that block. So, but when you're looking at your blocks, you are trying to see that you have a lighter or dark in each of the smaller blocks that are making this whole block. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what Latanya pointed out to that pinwheel. So it looks like the pinwheels that we had when we were kids that
Yeah.
we used to blow on, they would twirl around. So then my next step was, okay, I finished with all those. I laid them all out. There were 16 of them, and then I thought, I don't really want to. I want to put something in the center, and
Mm-hmm.
that's where that panel came into place. Because the panel that, with all the African women on it, it was um, it was a pretty large panel. There were like 6 blocks within that panel.
Mm-hmm.
And so there were two on the right that I just immediately removed and set them aside. And then the 4 panels in the center, the 4 blocks in the center, I cut them separate because they were one piece. And I
Mm-hmm.
separated each of them. And then what I decided to do, once I separated them, then I added sashing
Mm-hmm.
around each of them.
Mm-hmm.
That's the black in the
Yeah.
black. Yes. So then I did that all around the outer perimeter, and then in the center. But then I wanted a piece down the center,
Mm-hmm.
which also separated all of them. And then I laid it down again and I said, okay, that looks nice, but I still wanted some separation between um the center panel and all the outer blocks. So
Mm-hmm.
then I looked through my stash and I came across the my black and white zebra fabric that I had, which is reminiscent of Africa. So I used that, applied that, and then I stitched that on there. And at that point, I was like, okay, I like this.
Mm-hmm.
So from there, um, I stitched after I had that center panel done. Then I added two of the pinwheels on top. When I say added, I'm saying I stitched them on top,
Mm-hmm.
and then the bottom, I stitched the two. So then that's like one set of panels, like one panel. So then I had that right side, and I stitched those all down
Mm-hmm.
vertically, and then the left side did the same thing, and then folded it over, stitched it down, and then the left side folded it over, stitched it down, and then, and of course, when you open it up, everything lines up pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the part that you're really trying to make sure that your rows are basically as pretty close as possible.
Sure.
I think I did that on there. Um, so anyway, that took to put that together. It took me about 2 days, 2 days time,
Mm-hmm.
and this was back in November. So then, what I do is when I get to a certain point on a quilt, I sort of display it either on
Mm-hmm.
my display wall or on my garment rack where I'll hang a lot of my quilts,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll walk by it and I'll look at it, and it wasn't really calling to me for anything. So then I kind of put it away.
Mm-hmm.
And then it wasn't till January when we connected and we were talking about the showcase. That was when I decided um, this is the quilt that I'm going to use.
Yeah.
And that was when I finally was able to complete the quilt.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to, first of all, I had to come up with the backing. What was I going to use for the backing? And I looked in my stash again and I found some fabric that had black hands on it.
Mm-hmm.
One had a blue background, one had orange background.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked that because the hands to me stood for the women doing the work of their hands.
Mm.
And so I went with that, and then I pieced the back together.
Yeah.
So then I used like the teal with the flowers on it, just because I like the
Mm-hmm.
colors, and then I put a label on it. So
Yeah.
that's how the backing went. So then
Yes.
once I finished putting the backing together, then I had to make the sandwich, which is
Mm-hmm.
your top, your center, your batting. I used the flat batting with like a the Pellon natural. That's I like to use for wall hangings, and then the
Mm-hmm.
backing. And then at that point, I had to do the my free motion quilting. I had to decide what was I going to use, and because it was like a large pattern of the pinwheel blocks. I just went with the meandering stitch all around that. But
Mm-hmm.
initially, I did the free motion quilting in each separate area of the center panel. So I used the yellow thread because that's what you see in the upper parts of that, um, the center panels.
Mm-hmm.
Each piece I did that separately in yellow. And
Mm-hmm.
then I did like an echo stitch, which is like kind of like outlining each of the African figures.
Yeah.
That's what I did. So then um, once I finished it, got to that step, then I looked at it and I kept saying something's missing.
Right.
And then that's when I said, I looked through my stash again with my embellishments, and
Mm-hmm.
I found that my cowrie shells, and I thought, okay, I'm going to use the cowrie shells because back way, many moons ago,
Mm-hmm.
cowrie shells were a form of currency in Africa. So I used the cowrie shells, and I stitched those all on by hand, and I liked it. And then I thought, just because right in the center I didn't have anything right in the center. So then I looked through my stash again and found this some fabric that had African women on it. So I fussy cut one of the women, meaning I just cut it out of that fabric, and then fused it to the fabric, and then I stitched in that too. And then once I finished that and I stood back, I said, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So then I still had to put the binding on. So what I used for the binding is with this panel, there was coordinating fabric that I decided to use with it. And that's what I used for the panel. So I felt, for the border, and that tied the whole thing together.
Mm-hmm.
And
It
that's how
is.
I created it.
Yeah. Folks, it is absolutely a stunning quilt. And if you can see it, what you can see, you think is stunning, right? When you see it up close and you see all of the craftsmanship men or craft womanship that goes into it. You can feel the energy, you can feel the attention to detail, and like I said, like she said, intentionality behind it, right? It is a very powerful piece. You can, because of the women in the panel, because of Cassandra's work, you can feel like that this is woman's work, and what it means to be in life, right? Life goes on. This is what we
Yes.
have to and must do. So it is really a wonderful, wonderful piece, and I'm
Yes.
so proud to have it here in the shop. So if you're local or you're coming into you can see it here, hanging in Parliament Quilts and Crafts. But I have to say that Cassandra is the queen of embellishments. We had a class, an improv curve class,
Oh, yes.
where we learned how to make, how to make these soft curves.
Hmm.
And there were several wonderful people in the class who created some fabulous projects. And Cassandra's piece was wonderful because not only did she, make these wonderful curves that created a landscape, then she did her signature embellishments. Just took it up to another level, another notch. So just beautiful, beautiful pieces. If you want to continue to see how you add to a piece, to make it bigger and greater than what it is, then follow Miss Cassandra. I'm always continuously in awe of her work. Um, we have a couple of questions, a few more questions. I think you answered how long did it take to make, and you said it took a couple of days to put it together. But if you had to, Tammy asked that question, if you had to think about from the start to finish, how long it took to make it, including the conceptualization of it, right? Because oftentimes we don't think about like how long it takes from idea generation to
Hmm.
completion. So if you were to think about all of that, how long did it take to make it?
Mm. I am going to say probably about 20 hours. I would
Mhm.
say probably about 20 hours because, and I say that because of the technique, the hand stitching that went into it to put the beads on.
Mhm.
I mean, to put the cowrie shells on, but just the actual thought processes and then putting all of the pinwheels together.
Mhm.
That was many hours, and this is just going by recall, not that I wrote down each step that I take, but sometimes I'll take pictures as I go along,
Mhm.
so I kind of can recall the steps. But I'm going to say it probably took me from beginning to end,
Mhm.
conceptualization to fruition, about 20 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
And the
Yes.
size is roughly what? And I'm
That size, yes, it's about I think 53 by 53,
yes,
somewhere around there.
yes.
Yes.
Yes, 53
Yes.
by 53.
Hmm.
Gorgeous. Absolutely stunning. And I have to
Hmm.
say, I have a lot of fellow quilters who are very bold, and bold enough to put these fabrics together, which can be intimidating to some, right? Because they
Yes.
are very bold, very rich. And, I
Hmm.
sometimes look at them and say, well, this work together? I don't know. And oftentimes we'll say, well, maybe not. I'll put a solid next to it, or, you know,
Hmm.
but what you've done
Yes.
here is, you've been, a lot more, again, bold to say, all right, well, let me put these two colors together.
Hmm.
This has brown or gold in it, and this one does too.
Yes.
And let me just, let me make the pinwheel, and they just
Hmm.
all seem to work.
Yes.
And
Yes.
there was someone in the chat, and I'm going to go find it, who said, yes, Sammy Joe, you really
Hmm.
pulled the colors. I'm going to use my tools, y'all.
Hmm.
You really pulled the colors out of the panel. You did, right?
Oh, thank
Um,
you.
all of these
Thank you.
beautiful, beautiful colors. You see them
Hmm.
here in the
Yes.
panel as well. So
Hmm.
really, really stunning. So this is like a master class, y'all. A master class in how you use a panel, how you
Hmm.
embellish, how you
Mhm.
use these additional tools, and
Mhm.
how you take chances. I just love the willingness to just again be bold and to say like this is my vision. And if you think back to the start of the conversation where the
Mhm.
instructor added this color to
Yes.
and you're like,
That's
oh,
the
I'm not
right one.
feeling that. Here you are using all of these colors, and
Mhm.
making them work to your
Yes.
satisfaction. So it is
Yes.
it is absolutely beautiful.
Mhm.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Thank
What I would like to say about the title, how I came up with the title at the end of it,
you. Hmm.
um, life goes on. And I started thinking about that, no matter what is going on in the world, life goes on. We still have to get groceries, we still have to do the laundry, we still have to take care of the children and all other activities,
Hmm.
which are reminiscent in this. This is back in African culture, but even carrying it forward. These women carry out these things day in and day out. And who
Hmm.
better to share it with your time with than with a group of sisters? And
Yes,
that's depicted in each of those. And the pinwheel pattern, to me, symbolizes that spinning, or sometimes our minds, are just working overtime and they're spinning, and it's just kind of a reminder to stop and try to settle down, and knowing that life goes on, but better days are ahead.
indeed, indeed.
Yes. Yeah.
Love every bit of that. And it is beautiful for both, for all of the months, right? But here we are in
Yes.
Black History Month, and then March
Yes.
is Women's History Month and International
Exactly.
Women's Day and all of those things. And so
Mm-hmm.
this just resonates, right? For all of
Yes.
what you shared. It's so important. And when there has to be consistency and normalcy in the madness, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
who's keeping it? Who's keeping everything
Yes.
afloat and
Yes.
keeping everything going? So it's a
Yes.
beautiful, beautiful testament, to where we are and what we need to continue to do. I have another question from the Shonda.
Mm-hmm.
Again, y'all using my tools. I'm gonna put it up so everybody can see it. What suggestions do you have for someone who's just beginning and doesn't know where to start? Thank
Hmm.
you, Shonda. Mhm.
Okay. All right. That sounds like a familiar type of question that, huh. What would I tell an aspiring quilter?
Mhm.
Be bold. Be courageous. Don't
Yes.
box yourself in. Take classes.
Mhm.
Stretch yourself. Find a local guild. Seek a mentor within that guild.
Mhm.
Visit art galleries, museums, go to the library. They have a wealth of books, of course. They have magazines. You can even use the online site Libby to look at some of the quilt magazines.
Mhm.
Those don't cost anything. Um, just remember that there's always something new to learn. We all started not knowing what we were doing,
Right.
but it's a gift that's meant to be shared. So that would be my um, suggestions.
Thank you for that. I think along with that, I will say ditto and double click all on all of that.
Yes.
Um, I think what we a lot of times folks just get intimidated, right? You see these wonderful pieces, and folks are like, I can never do that. I don't know where to
Mhm.
start, and you wait. Just get started, right? It's needle and
Yes.
thread, as the quilting marine says.
Mm-hmm.
It's only fabric and it's only thread. And while you build your skill and you learn your voice and you take the classes and you find the techniques that you enjoy. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you just remember what it is, right? And
Yes.
you can start with what you have, you can repurpose things, you can go and buy all of the new fabric that's out, or you can go to a thrift store and find a curtain and cut it up
Mhm.
and piece it. You can do all
Yes.
kinds of things. There
Mhm.
really are no limitations,
Exactly.
to the
Right.
skill. So just jump in, and
Mhm.
you can see all of the people who are on the chat, the people who are part of this larger community, people who, as Cassandra said, are part of your local guilds, folks who just want to come together and sew. It's so much out there. So jump on in.
Mhm.
And I've always found people who are willing to help.
Yes.
So all of you folks, thank you who have been putting your organizations and groups in the chat. Feel
Mm.
free to post them again, and so that everybody can see where you are, and we can continue to work with each other and build with each other. I know Cassandra and several phone calls through the National African American Quilt Guild, with
Mhm.
impetus for the Sunday Sewcase. So I want to continue to give
Yes.
shout outs. I've sewn with sisters in the Brown Quilters Create and Educate group. Um,
Mhm.
Sisters who embroider in the Melanated Queens embroidery group. I mean, it is this large community. So
Yes.
find your folks and jump
Mhm.
on in.
Yes.
Um, so, Cassandra, what's next for you? So, I have two questions. Um,
Right.
is there another technique that you want to learn? Is there something that you're just like excited about that you want to try?
There, I'll tell you, there's a whole bunch of things, but I'm gonna settle on two of them, two of the different techniques
Mhm.
that I'd like to learn, and this just came about yesterday. I got to hang out with some of my friends yesterday, and um, she was showing me her quilt. This is Doreen Bryant. She was showing me her quilt called New York Beauty.
Mhm.
And I looked at it and I thought, oh my goodness. Oof. And that was mine, like, I don't know if I could do that, but I would like to try. And it looks very complicated, and she made it seem like it was doable. So it's paper piecing. There's a lot of paper piecing in it, which helps with the precision in this actual block. But what I liked about it was that it was New York, titled New York Beauty, and my husband was born in Brooklyn,
Mhm.
so we spent a lot of time in New York, so I just like that. That came to my mind, but I just like the fact that okay, this is something that's very complicated. It is intimidating, but it's something that I will try. I'm going to try before the year's up. I've said it to all of you, so I got to stick to it.
Yeah.
And then the other one was Seminole piecing that my friends Betty and Alyssa had mentioned. And I think I want to say it has like a Native American background.
Mhm.
Um, stems from that, but I don't really know much about it, but I want to learn about it. And that's something else that I hope to try before the year's end as well. And it doesn't have to be a full size quilt. I mean, it could be a small wall hanging, but I just would like to um, try that technique.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes. I love the New York Beauty, and you're right. It is a lot, but they are beautiful, beautiful quilts,
Yes.
and very can be very challenging to some.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate you wanting to dive into that, and I see, as you build your skills, you want to lean towards things that are a little more challenging. That
Mm-hmm.
have you test your sewing metal, right? So
Yes.
the New York
Yes.
Beauty, I think, is it. I tried one block,
Mm-hmm.
and I said, yeah, that's enough for me right now.
It might be one block, but that's
Right.
okay. It's a start.
Yes.
It might just be a wall hanging, but it's just to learn that technique.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. So what's next for you, Cassandra?
Hmm. What is next? Let's see. Well, I'm collaborating on two grants right now. One is quilting related, um, that's locally, and
Mm-hmm.
then the other one is grief related. I'm a certified grief coach now. That's something else that I don't know if you would call it a passion, but something that I feel I can help others through.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a group of us who have applied for this grant, who took this class together.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's on my um, radar. And then I'm thinking, okay, it's Women's History Month coming up next month in March. I would like to be a part of an exhibit, either in a museum or an art gallery, that's focusing on women and their accomplishments throughout history.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd also like to offer classes for beginner quilters. And what else do I want? I'd like to develop a print for fabric.
Right.
And I would love to become an ambassador for a fabric company or, uh, yeah, I think
Mm-hmm. That's a lot.
those are a few things.
Yeah.
Yes.
Again,
Things
CVS
for
for
me to strive
seniors.
towards.
That's wonderful.
Yes.
And folks, if you are on and you are listening and you have any information and for any of those areas, right, which we again, which we often do in the guilds, share information about opportunities to display and to have exhibits, opportunities to teach. I know in my shop, I will be calling on you um,
Okay.
to help support some classes
Yes.
and to
Okay.
design that fabric. I'm happy to carry it in the shop. I love it.
Hmm.
So there, what's important is that we all continue to support each other in our endeavors. And so, folks, you've heard it. You've heard all of the things that Cassandra is interested in, and I know that there are things that you all are interested in. So feel free to post those in the chat, and we can continue the network, right? To make sure
Yes.
that we all get what we need and support each other. It is wonderful to hear, as always, what is happening out in the fiber arts, quilting, textile world.
Yes.
And this opportunity continues to show that the sisterhood, that the community, the sisterhood, the brotherhood is strong. And those
Hmm.
things that we do to get us through are continue to rise to the top. And this is one of them. Quilting has always been a community effort. And even if we
Yes.
do these things in the solitude of our home, we still feel
Hmm.
called and compelled to be in fellowship with one another.
Yes.
So this is part of it. This is why we are here,
Hmm.
having this Sunday showcase and sharing and learning more about, again, the wonderful Cassandra and learning more about each other in the chat. Um, as we finish up, I want to share Cassandra's contact information. And so Cassandra, she can be contacted at Cassandra Quilts, cassandrasquilts.com, Quilts by Cassandra Allen on Facebook, and Cowrie Shells 2018 on IG. So if you want to see all of the things that she is doing, if you want to get in contact with her, this is her information. I will leave this up for a second and give you an opportunity to take all of that down. And last but not least, Parliament Quilts and Crafts is my shop here in Raeford that is bringing the Sunday Showcase to you. We are a fabric shop, a quilt shop. We support all crafters here. been in business and been in the retail space for a little over a year now. We would love for you to come and see us, and we are also online. So, again, if you are local and you want to come and see the Fabulous Life Goes On piece, please do see that. But if you want to just come and see what we're offering at Parliament Quilts, please do that. I'm going to throw up a code for you to take a look in celebration of this first Sunday Showcase. If you want to shop around or take a look at what we're offering, you can use this code and get 25% off of all items in the shop. And stay tuned and stay connected. I'm glad to be here, glad to be building and continuing to grow. You know, you start small and you get bigger and better. And so this is where we are and what we're doing. And I'm just excited again to be working with you all and talking with you all and getting to know all of you. Check us out online. Um, Stay tuned to this channel. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, of course, YouTube, and we are on TikTok, although we're still getting used to that. And that's where we are right now. Haven't joined any of those other platforms yet, but where we're on the big three or big four. And last but not least, join us on March 23rd for our next Sunday Showcase. We'll be highlighting Kristen LaFlamme, who has a book on memory quilts, and it's called Sew Your Story, and we'll be talking more about that. Um, Before we finish, I want to give a shout out to Cassandra. Cassandra's birthday is tomorrow, y'all. Um, please email her uh, your so shout out, some big ups for her birthday. We hope that you have a wonderful day full of all of the joy that you deserve with your family. Of course, get some rest. Do whatever it is that you want to do for as long as you want to celebrate. You deserve it all. Um,
Wow, thank you so much.
you're welcome. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. There will be
Mhm.
a recap in a few days. I'll post the video up, post some more images of all of the wonderful work that Cassandra does, and stay tuned for more. All right.
I
Thank you.
appreciate all of you who signed in. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you so much.
You're
Okay.
welcome. Bye.
Bye bye.